Hello, everyone. This is Nadine Chisel, Senior Consultant with Customers First Now. Thank you for joining our CX Leader webinars, where we keep you up to date on the latest topics in the areas of customer experience, journey mapping, and customer success. Let me go over some logistics, and then we'll get started. We're recording today's webinar, and it will post to our Webinars and Events webpage within a couple of days. If you have any questions anytime during the session, you can submit them by going to the Questions panel on your control panel. Our presenters today are Lisa Richards and Kate Simic with Starkey Hearing Technologies. I've had the pleasure of working with both of them on their customer experience journey. Lisa has been a champion in the field of hearing healthcare for over 24 years and is currently serving as Chief Customer Officer at Starkey. In her role, Lisa is responsible for protecting and growing the company's mission to serve their customers better than anyone else. Kate is the Vice President of Brand Marketing with a background in advertising, strategy development, and brand marketing, and prior to joining Starkey, worked with many global brands. Today you will get an inside look at Starkey's engagement with CFN and how customer journey mapping and customer insights is helping Starkey elevate and protect their mission and drive growth in a challenging and changing market. And now I'll turn it over to Lisa and Kate.
Thank you, Nadine. I appreciate it. Next slide, please. So we're excited to share with you a number of things today. We have partnered up with Customers First Now, and they've done a phenomenal job in helping us with some of our efforts. So we'll talk a little bit about our experience in working with them on building our journey map, some of the findings that we came across, high impact measurements that we are taking a look at measuring going forward, and then how we got our organization on board, engaged, so that they are coming alongside and driving change together. Next slide. So at Starkey, our mission is to serve our customers better than anyone else. And as Nadine mentioned, in my role as Chief Customer Officer, one of the key responsibilities that I have is to ensure that we are protecting that mission and growing it and paying very, very close attention to that. So this all ties in beautifully with our efforts that we are taking to do that. Next slide, please. So some interesting research. By 2020, customer experience will overtake price and brand, or price and product, as a key differentiator. And this is really important for us to pay attention to as we look at figuring out how we can serve our customers better than anyone else. We really do need to move from being reactive to proactive. And what I mean by that is Starkey has had a long history of providing incredible, industry-leading, world-class customer service. We have done a great job of responding to something that might go wrong in the process or assisting customers in the process. And what we really want to do is figure out how do we reduce the need for that phone call to begin with. And that is something that we are paying close attention to. Next slide, please. So the way we've designed, or since we know customer experience is going to be overtaking price and product as a key differentiator, how do we take this world-class service and get into a proactive position? We know that we want to start taking a look through a customer lens. So how we've defined customer experience is how our customers feel about our company based on all of their interactions with us. And so I want to highlight a couple of words in this simple definition. One is customers. It's how our customers feel. Oftentimes, organizations will look at, they feel like they know their customers, they move forward on making decisions based on what they think the customers need, and we really need to turn things around into how the customers are seeing things. And how they're feeling things. So feel is another key word. It's a highly emotional decision to work with a company. 70% of the time people are making decisions based on emotion, and then they defend it with logic. And we need to really capture the hearts of our customers and understand how they're feeling about us. And then it goes down to all. if they have bad interactions with us, it's going to impact them. And we really need to understand where are those great moments that they have with us and where are those pain points that they have with us. So we have to pay attention to not just some of their interactions, but what's that overall experience that a customer has with us. Next slide, please. One thing that we know is going to be important is that we need to move from thinking to knowing what's going on with our customers. So moving out of that space of I think because I feel, or we have to look at I know because we've measured. So although we're looking for a very emotional connection with our customers, we need to ensure that we are taking a very prescriptive approach to understanding the data and measuring whether or not things are moving in the right direction. There was some research conducted a while back by IBM that had executives take a look at what is the customer, or what did they think what did the executives think the customer wanted, and then they went and measured what the customers said they wanted. And as you know, you might think that there would be a lot of alignment, but according to the research, there wasn't as much alignment. So we really do need to move from that thinking to knowing. Next, I'm going to have Kate share with you a little bit about how we start to focus in that scope. Kate?
Thanks, Lisa. Next slide, please. So moving from thinking to knowing has been and continues to be a huge cultural shift for our organization. It has allowed us to question what we thought to be true, and because of this shift, we've also made a shift from looking at our customer experience from an organizational lens to a customer lens. By stepping back and saying what we think may not be true, we had to ask questions of our customers. We had to ask about their experience and their feelings and their emotions with us. This has given our customers a voice in Starkey's overall customer experience. We all have our favorite brands. As a brand marketer, the reasons why and the ones that stick are both things that I pay close attention to. Most of my favorite brands are not just brands, but experiences, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. Our journey with Customers First Now started with a story from Carrie about one of my favorite brands, Starbucks. Carrie told a story that every day she goes to Starbucks and orders her drink and a yogurt. She goes through the drive-thru, and every time her Starbucks location forgets to give her a napkin, she always has to ask. This is annoying to her, but it hasn't changed her behavior. She still goes through the drive-thru every day, orders a drink, and orders her yogurt. This story from Carrie was a huge light bulb moment for our organization. We thought, how many napkins are we focusing on at Starkey, and are we missing the real moments that matter? Thanks to our partnership with Customers First Now, we have learned about our pain points and moments of truth. So let's talk a little bit about each. So pain points. Pain points are annoyances, and sometimes quite painful annoyances. They require the user to use more effort than expected. They create stress, uncertainty, and worry. They make our customers feel let down. They negatively affect other points of the overall experience. They can undermine loyalty and commitment. And most of the time, they reveal a serious gap between expectation and reality. Moments of truth are interactions that make or break your relationship with a customer. In an ideal case, positive moments of truth can leave lasting impressions. They are emotional, where the customer is emotionally engaged or in a vulnerable state. They're important. There's a lot dependent on the outcome. They require involvement. The customer is personally invested in the outcome. They have value. The customer needs to feel special or appreciated. And they come with expectations. Moments of truth are when customers' expectations are heightened. Now I'm going to hand it back to Lisa to talk about the journey map and process and Starkey's journey map specifically.
Thank you, Kate. So when we take a look at identifying those pain points and moments of truth, we really needed to figure out what what are those and how do we go about doing this? So this is where Customers First Now guided us through a very methodical approach to looking at what are all of our touch points that we have throughout our organization. And then through a process that they guided us through, we were able to identify the pain points and then the moments of truth that we could take a look at. Here is just a journey map example. And some of the things that we learned and some helpful hints as we were going through this process was to make sure that we were looking at it again through our customers' eyes. Something that tripped us up a little bit would be we would want to put our language down on defining those touch points. And in reality, it needed to be through the customer's eyes and through their language. So that was one learning. The other thing we learned that we needed to do is make sure that everything was actionable. And so each of those touch points, if you were to drill in and look more closely, you would see that they all have a verb. In other words, there's action tied to each one of those touch points. And the other thing is it's simple. We needed to keep it simple. As we went into each one of these touch points, we needed to make sure that we were removing some of the complexities out and focused on a journey map that would end up with simple, actionable touch points. So here is actually the outcome. Here is our journey map. This is the end product. This was so exciting to see that we had 179 touch points in our organization. And through some of the analysis, we came up with 3 key themes that we needed to focus on as an organization. Let me take a step back and let you know, how did we come up with these touch points? As we worked with Customers First Now, they assisted us in collecting and gathering all of our customer satisfaction data that we had had. We had thousands of responses that we were able to look at. They worked with us and we identified customers that they physically went out and either met with or they did phone interviews with. And then we also had our internal teams participate in gathering and validating that, yes, indeed, these are the touch points. And then through their process, we were also able to identify what we keep referring to as our pain points, moments of truth. So if you look at this map, again, it's a high-level view, but all the gray areas, those are certainly touch points, but they didn't resonate and filter to the top as a moment of truth or a pain point. So green, areas that we are doing well in. Yellow would be a pain point, and then all those red spots are areas that are both a pain point and a moment of truth, as Kate described earlier in her definition. So this really did give us an area, a really targeted place to start. Instead of thinking that we needed to maximize every single one of those 179 touch points, we now had a roadmap to focus on where we could really make a difference, make an impact, and focus on areas that matter to the customer. I thought it was very exciting too because Customers First Now also assisted us at linking all of this information and data together to our journey map. So they were able to take a look at some of our operational data, some of our survey feedback, and our financial data. And we were very happy to see that once you linked all that together, they actually did link, they did resonate, and they were aligned. So we knew that if we did make improvements in those critical areas, that we would actually drive increased customer satisfaction. So and it would also drive additional revenue through our organization. This was a very, very important finding and very exciting to us as we went forward. But once we had this map, then we really needed to take it to the next step and put this map into action. So I'm going to next turn it over to Kate to talk about how we did that, how we drove our journey map into action. Kate, next slide.
Great, thanks, Lisa. So as Lisa said, we have been able to take action, and quick action at that. And the map has also given us the opportunity for our entire organization to engage in customer experience. The best companies, experienced companies out there have customers experience as a mindset and not as a single department. So what we've done is first establish customer experience champions in each functional area that impacts the customer. These customer experience champions have created action plans with cross-functional work based on the journey map. We are also evaluating our product launches based on what we've learned on the journey map. Specifically, we've updated our enterprise new product introduction process to account for the journey map, which it never has before. We have many types of customers and do business in over 100 countries. So we are now evaluating and creating plans for expanding our maps to cover even more types of customers and more markets. Previously, our surveying has been with an organizational lens. We are now able to survey our customers based on their viewpoint. So our annual customer satisfaction survey has completely been restructured to help measure our touch points, and will be deploying it in a few weeks. So speaking of measurement, let's talk about scorecards. We have also implemented a customer experience scorecard thanks to Customer First Now. Here are a couple best practices to think about regarding a scorecard. Using red and green only to rate progress is really important. Most people don't know what to do with a yellow light at a stop sign, right, or at a stoplight. So using red and yellow, or red and green, is really important to drive action. Picking 8 to 10 metrics to stay focused on the high impact outcomes is also important. And then ensuring those metrics are mutually exclusive. Also ensuring those metrics are outside in and matter to your customers. And then choosing the owners that are results oriented. Here is Starkey's scorecard. Now you're going to see a lot of under construction because one of the important things that we learned is that it was okay to be open to creating new types of measurements. And we are creating those measurements and creating those metrics now. This was an important part of looking at organizational versus the customer lens. A lot of the things that we're measuring were organizational and meant something to us, but didn't mean something to the customer and their overall experience. So it's important to reinforce the key customer experience drivers from the map. It's something that we learned while doing this. And it's okay to leverage metrics already in place if they measure what matters for your customers. You see that there are some that we have on here that aren't under construction because they're measures that we have today. And then as I opened with this slide, it's really important to be open to creating the right measurements, to be looking at the measurements that matter most to the customer experience, to your customers and their overall journey. Now I will hand it back to Lisa to wrap things up.
Okay, so what we wanted to do is, Kate mentioned early on in this presentation that customer experience is not a department, it's an organizational culture. And so what I want to share with you is how did we then take this information and start to drive it throughout the organization. And we started at the top. We started with our executive leadership team and created alignment on if we're going to use a customer lens in our organization, what does that look like? So we created, together, we created a customer experience promise that is going to allow us to support and grow our mission to serve our customers better than anyone else. And so you'll see on the right-hand side here, the 5 core elements that our leadership all agreed on was to be a company that is easy to work with, to make every interaction matter, to deliver a personalized experience, build lasting relationships, and provide innovative and creative solutions. Now, this isn't something that these are things that matter to us, but we also this was all guided through Customers First Now again as well. This is another piece that they helped us with and guided us through to come up with this customer experience promise. What we're able to now do is take this promise and socialize it through our entire organization so that when teams are working on their action plans, like Kate mentioned, they can pick and determine which ones or which elements of the promise they're specifically working on and building out. So again, that is being used throughout the organization. We also have a customer experience council. We knew that we wanted to create a way to govern this process. It's one thing to create the map, another thing to create the action planning that goes along with it and measuring it. But we needed to make sure that we moved from creating the action plan to actually seeing the results and seeing that people are delivering on what they committed to do and plan to do. So the council is a format where we meet on a monthly basis, and actually this is the format in which people present the progress that they're making on their action plan. And we have incredible engagement, a lot of excitement, and this has been very successful for us. The next thing that we also wanted to do is just the communication and continued socialization of our journey map and the efforts that we're making. So we have incorporated what we're doing in our employee quarterly town hall meeting, where we shared with the entire organization what it is we're working on, what our executive leadership agreed to as far as customer experience promise, how we want the organization to start looking at customer experience differently. And Kate gave you a couple of examples too, just in our action planning, how we've already made additional changes too. We've also added customer experience into our new hire orientation so that right from the start they understand that the impact that they can have on the overall customer journey. We've also started to take our customer experience education on the road. What do we mean by that? We have Customer Experience Roadshow there. We've decided to go into departmental meetings. So if our entire finance team gets together, we get spots or some time allocated on the agenda where we can also share all of the efforts. Repetition is the key to learning, and so getting in front of people over and over and over is what is going to be critical to changing our overall culture and creating a customer experience culture here at Starkey. So then one other thing that we worked on was to really tie the emotion into this customer experience, and we thought it would be fun to create a video, and I'm going to share that video with you. But basically this is a letter that we have created to Starkey from our customer. So next slide, please.
Hi, I know we met before and you know me, but I'm curious, how many other people at Starkey know me?
I know I haven't met them, and I'm likely just a data point to many.
How many aids I've purchased?
My average check here?
Or what my return rate is. All the things they track to try to understand me. But none of that is the real me.
It's just what I look like on paper.
But you know, there is so much more to me than that.
Like the satisfaction I get when I have the perfect fitting. Or the pressure I feel to keep up with technology.
Or the relief I have when my order is delivered next day. What makes me excited about going to work in the morning, and what keeps me up at night. But what if you really knew me? Think of how we could partner together to succeed in this ever-changing, crazy marketplace.
I will be first in line for your new technology.
And see the value in your prices.
And you would trust my product feedback. Here's the deal. I know I'm complicated, but aren't we all?
There is one thing you can know about me for sure. I want to celebrate hearing aids,
and I want my business to succeed.
I want your full attention and a personalized experience.
I know you have hundreds of customers, but I want to feel like I'm the only one.
I want our relationship to be personal and effortless.
If I'm opening a new location, help me prepare to best serve my patients. If I'm attending a class, remember that I'm gluten-free.
When I get married, celebrate with me and update my name in your system. If you are developing these products, ask me my opinion. It may be unique, but we all want this.
So why not start with me?
Sincerely, your customer.
Okay, next slide. So in summary, it has been a joy talking to all of you. I hope that if you've not mapped your customer journey, you take time to do so. And when you do, ensure that you're engaging with your customers and your employees to create the best map possible. Customers First Now does a beautiful job of guiding you through this experience. Make sure that you're taking action and focusing on the things that matter to your customer the most, the things that are going to tie into those moments of truth, and continue to learn. It's not a one and done, and that you will want to continue to revisit that and refine along the way so that you're improving the experience to the full extent. And to really remember that this is a journey. Like I said, it's not a one-time deal. So thank you for letting us share our Starkey story and our Starkey journey. And I think we can open it up at this point to any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much, Lisa and Kate. So we've got several questions. First one is, what is an example of an actual pain point that Starkey experienced that you wanted to address?
Sure. So an example of one of our pain points that we wanted to address is attending a summit came up. So we have on-site Starkey summits, and we thought that was really strange because that's an area that we actually do really well. And every time our customers come here, the survey results are phenomenal. When customers leave, they end up purchasing more because we track the return on investment of these classes. So we were a little surprised to see it come up. But through the journey mapping, you get to dig deeper and you get to learn what customers mean. So instead of looking at it through our eyes, we looked at it through their eyes a little bit further and learned that it's not that they had issue with it. It was that we determine which customers come to the summit. And so if we are trying to attract maybe some new potential buyers, they get invited to the summit here on campus. Then they become a buyer, which is terrific. And then the following year, they don't get invited back to campus. Well, we can only invite so many people to campus, but they don't have visibility to what our overall strategy is. So that was just kind of fun and eye-opening to us that we have opportunity to educate our customers a little bit more on all of the different strategy that goes behind the different classes and methods of training that we offer. The other thing is, too, is providing customers with more options potentially on how they can get trained in the format that they want to be trained. So it's a give and take, but without this mapping process, we wouldn't have been able to drill in and get additional information in that space.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Another question, what is an outside-in metric?
An outside-in metric, so I think what you're referring to is just ensuring that we are adding to our service or onto our scorecard. We are taking some of the customer input to find out how they feel about things rather than us doing just our internal operational metrics. That is the information we have quick access to, like how many calls they're making or how accurate their orders are. Taking an outside-in metric is going to be, grabbing at some of that more transactional information on how they feel based on regular day-to-day interactions and measuring that and improving that.
Yeah, I'd say a specific example for us is first fit satisfaction. So that's when they're first fitting a hearing aid, and it's less about how we delivered that hearing aid and more about their experience with the hearing aid and their satisfaction level.
Yep, and how they feel. And how does the patient feel? So capturing both their feelings and the patient's feelings.
And I would say, from working with both of you, I know one of the things you really tried to do through this whole process is make sure that you weren't just looking at, what are we measuring that's important to us, but you were always taking in and layering in that customer perspective in terms of what are the metrics that when you talk to your customers about it, if you show them what you're measuring, it would make sense to your customers because you're measuring things that they're going to care about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another question was, how long did the process take?
I think that, and you're going to ask me to do chronological events, which is my weakness, but I would say that this whole process we were able to complete in less than 12 weeks. Was it? And Nadine, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it went very quickly. And I think that, too, it depends on, from an organizational perspective, you have to be prepared to commit the time. So I actually asked Customers First Now how long this would take us to get through it, and the answer was it depends. And I fully understand what that means now, but I believe that our process went rather quickly, extremely smoothly, because we did dedicate the time, the resources, we prioritized it internally, and tried to be as responsive as possible to the timeline that was provided to us, because we did want to get to results as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. That's right, Lisa. And I think you said it's committing the time internally. And one of the things you just plan for it is that can take longer is when you're doing the customer interviews, because you've got to recognize that you want to get those scheduled and in it because the customer's time frames in order to fit that in. And that actually was one of the things that took more time than some of the internal things, I think you'd say.
Yeah, it's one of the variables that we have a little less control over.
That's correct. Another question is, how involved was your CEO, and do you feel that's necessary to get started on a customer experience program?
Yeah, so I think, there was overall executive buy-in, and actually kind of a cool story is this was something that was unbudgeted for us, but Lisa and I felt really strong about the impact that this would have to our organization. And Lisa calls it her GoFundMe campaign, but she actually, to demonstrate how much buy-in we had from the executive team, is we had literal buy-in. People took portions of their budget to contribute to this effort. So not only was there buy-in from our CEO and president, but the entire executive team, which I think is one of the reasons why this has been so successful.
Great. And then final question, how often do you survey your customers to get the necessary data for the journey map?
So we're doing a couple things. So previous to doing journey mapping, we do an annual survey, a satisfaction and relationship survey. And we also do a survey post product launch. So for us, that's 2 times a year. So that was our regular cadence. Because of the journey map and because of the metrics that we have on our scorecard, we're now doing much more transactional surveys as well. So we've kept our ongoing relationship surveys, the product launch surveys, but we've added in various transactional surveys, as well as we're looking at places to add surveys in the places where our customers are all the time. So for example, they need to use proprietary fitting software in order to program and fit our hearing aids, and we will be implementing a survey within that software just to understand how things are going, and especially measuring that first fit satisfaction. Great, thank you.
I think that's all the questions. Thank you both very, very much for sharing your story. You've made great progress, and as you were both saying in terms of the question from the time frame, look at where you started. But, Lisa and Kate, I think you would say when you look back in terms of all you've accomplished over the last year in terms of what you've done and moving it forward, that's got to make you feel really good about where you're at today.
Absolutely. It's been very exciting. We're very pleased with the results, and we look forward to seeing all the impact from all these action plans that our people are full steam ahead on, working full steam ahead on. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And thank you to everyone else for joining us today. We'll be sending out a link to the recording of today's session shortly. Recordings of previous sessions are all also available at our website or and the Customers First Now YouTube channel. If you have any additional questions about today's session, or if you'd like to speak to one of our CX practitioners about your own customer experience needs, please email us and we will get back to you immediately. Thanks again, Lisa and Kate, for a great presentation, and thanks to everyone for attending.